Hello, everybody. My name is Julian Thompson, and I am the communications lead for Connected Baby. Connected Baby came along as a result of Suzanne Zeedyk. Suzanne is a developmental psychologist, and she's interested in helping us to all understand connection, helping us to understand how babies' brains develop. And today she's come along to speak to us about coping with the anxieties around coronavirus. There's over 2,500 of you that have signed up for this webinar, which is astounding. And we have people from all over. We have people from here in the UK and Scotland. Shout out to people in Edinburgh and Glasgow. We have people who are here from New Zealand, Australia, the Netherlands, Texas, a real spread of people. And we're so grateful to have you here this evening, and taking time out of your evening to come along and listen to us. So I think it is without any further ado that I am going to hand you over to Suzanne Zeedyk. And I will just leave it there and let Suzanne take it from here.
Hello, everybody. It's lovely to see you. I love the folks who've said I washed my hands especially for this. Well, every transition at the moment, we are washing our hands. So I'm delighted to have you here. I can't believe how many people wanted to take part. As Julian said, we just thought that we might be able to help as we watched all the anxiety mount over the last several weeks. And we know that there may be different situations in all the different countries that are joining us tonight, but here in the UK, we went into lockdown last night. People are still trying to figure out what lockdown means, but I give that as an example because everything that has been happening in all these places around the world just keeps ramping up the anxiety. And anxiety is all about the unknown. It's all about the future. It's all about the worry of the unknown. It's all about coping with uncertainty. And our bodies get anxious if we're asked to do that. So I'm going to do 3 things tonight. I'm going to talk about how anxiety operates because lots of people just don't know that. And I think that understanding how anxiety operates helps us to understand what's going on and then helps us to have an idea about what to do about it. Secondly, I'm then just going to explore some of why the body operates that way. How did anxiety come to have the impact on our biology that it does? And then thirdly, I'm going to talk about what we can do to help ourselves and others. Because one of the amazing things of understanding about connection is that you come to understand just how influential you can be for somebody else, both for the good and for the not so good, to help or to make things worse, even if you never intended to do either. And so if we just understand how powerfully human beings are connected and that is what we're wired for, then it helps us actually to relax, because we know that by simply being present and by being aware of how we're behaving, you can make a real difference for somebody else. And I think we're in a time where we really need to try to do that. And it helps create relaxation, knowing that you don't have to do a whole lot other than be present in order to help them. So I hope that helps to know what we're going to do. And in fact, can I start there? By simply saying we're going to do 3 things, I have already tried to start with creating a sense of safety. I've made it predictable. You know what to expect. There will be 3 things that happen tonight. We'll be able to keep track of where we are because I'll go, now we're to the first thing, now we're to the second thing. Knowing what is going to happen helps to create comfort, helps to create relaxation, helps to create a sense of safety. Simply creating something that is structured and predictable. That's really helpful to parents. Creating predictability for your children in a time of unpredictability is what will help to make them feel safe it will shape their behavior, and it will make your time over the next weeks easier. So I've started simply by demonstrating what we might do to help. But let's go back then to the first thing I said I was going to do. Let's just talk about how anxiety operates in the body. That's the stress system. And the way that medics and scientists have traditionally understood the stress system is that it has two key parts of the central nervous system that runs from your brain all the way down your spinal cord. You have the parasympathetic and the sympathetic systems within that nervous system. Now, I hope some of you have automatically gone, what? I can't remember those big words. That's one of the trouble, is that the language sometimes for understanding our own bodies is in itself off-putting. So I don't use that language. I talk about the teddy bear system and the saber tooth tiger system in our bodies. And I use that language because it helps you to capture really quickly what it is your system's trying to do. The saber tooth tiger system of our central nervous system tries to help you to cope with danger. It tries to help you to manage in life where we're trying to manage every day. So you'll need your saber tooth tiger system to manage traffic, to get up and go to work in the morning, to deal with an argument with your partner, to have fun on a roller coaster, to cope with a horror movie, to cope with the idea of being in lockdown with your family members who you used to love until you had to spend quite so much time with them. All of that requires your saber tooth tiger system. But here's the interesting thing. The saber tooth tiger system, from that language, we get the sense it's trying to help you to cope with danger. So every time you get stressed, you are drawing on the saber tooth tiger system in your body. And it's really useful if you need to deal with the unknown. It's really useful if you have to move quickly. It's really useful if there's a bit of a crisis. The trouble is that if you spend all your time coping with saber tooth tigers, watching out for them, guarding against that kind of danger, then what happens is that your body starts to become run down. You start to get tired. We're not meant to live with crisis all the time. Saber tooth tiger systems are meant to help in an emergency. And now the whole of the world is living in the midst of a saber tooth tiger time because we're all living with so much uncertainty. And it's ramping up everybody's sense of anxiety, and different people cope with that level of anxiety in different ways and in healthy and less healthy ways. So that's why it's useful to know about the other system. That's the teddy bear system. The teddy bear system of the central nervous system helps you to calm down. It helps you to feel safe. It helps you to comfort yourself. And that's why I like that language, because it helps us to remember what the purpose of those two parts of the central nervous system are. But at the core, it's really useful simply to understand that we've got a saber tooth tiger system, we've got a teddy bear system, and that even before we got to coronavirus time, all of us spend too much time in our saber tooth tiger system. And what we need to do is try to get back to our teddy bear system. So when you're trying to help yourself with the way stress feels, what you're trying to do is find ways to get back to your teddy bear system in your body. You're trying to find ways to comfort yourself and create a sense of safety. Okay, one more thing to stay there in how anxiety operates. Remember that as uncomfortable as it feels sometimes, what your body is trying to do is keep you alive. The stress system functions because it's trying to keep you out of danger, it's trying to keep you alive. So even when it feels uncomfortable, your brain, which is in charge of that central nervous system, thinks that what it's trying to do is keep you safe. Sometimes it goes into overdrive. Sometimes it's trying to keep you safe and it could calm down. And that's what you're trying to do in meditation and in mindfulness and in all the things we'll come to in a moment. What we're trying to do is to help the brain to calm down and say, it's all right. We're not in danger right this moment. So you can calm down and stop worrying quite so much. Thank you for trying to take care of me. I'm going to come back to that kind of self-talk in a minute. Okay. Breathe out. Simply breathing out helps the body to calm down. And I've breathed out at the moment because we finished the first part. I'm letting that breath note a moment of transition. I'm giving myself time to catch up with myself. I'm signaling to all of you that there's a pause. I'm talking slower. I'm letting that settle in my body. And I'm calling attention to that right now because I'm just trying to show how easy it is, how in little tiny micro moments we can help ourselves if we just pay attention to where our body's at. So I hope that maybe you can feel a difference in your body as I'm breathing out, as I'm slowing down. And therefore, if you can feel a difference in the way that I'm talking, it helps you to know what you can do to help other people. When things start to get tough in your household, when tempers start to flare, and guys, there's going to be a lot of that in the coming weeks, you can make a difference simply by breathing differently yourself. And you can help other people to do that by breathing out loudly, by slowing the way you talk, by calling attention to the fact that you're breathing, by getting all your kids to breathe with you. It signals a transition. It signals a time of pause. And it doesn't just signal it, it actually creates it. Okay, so that's the first bit. Here's the second part. Let's just explore a little bit of why does the body operate that way? Why does anxiety, how come it works this way in our bodies? There are fascinating things I could talk about. I made a wee list here of just a few of them, and then I crossed them off because I thought, Suzanne, you'll not have time to talk about all of those. Again, we could come back to that if we want. The thing is, you can only take so much in anyway, at a time. So all I'm trying to do is give some really basic stuff here that people can draw on to draw on in the moment, in the weeks to come. Okay, so here's one thing that we can think about why the body operates this way. What your body is trying to do is keep you safe. If there's only one word that you take away from tonight, take that one. Your body is looking for a sense of safety. So if it sees a saber tooth tiger coming, it's trying to help you to run away from that. That's when you hear about the fight or flight system, that's flight. You run away from saber tooth tigers. That is a really smart thing to do. Now, if you can't run fast enough to get away from a saber tooth tiger, what you do is you turn and try to fight. You try really hard to punch him between the eyes. Now, I realize that you got a big battle on your hands there to try to punch a saber-toothed tiger and hope that you're going to stay alive. But if he's bearing down on you, what else are you going to do? You're going to give it your best shot. So that's fight or flight. And actually there's a third one. There's also freeze. You could try and freeze. You could play dead and maybe he'll go away. Animals like possums do that. Rabbits do that. They're drawing on the freeze part, the freeze strategy of the stress system. Human beings do all three of those. But here's a really fascinating thing. Some people when they're children and they're learning, they're just growing into the stress that they find in their lives, they may come to rely on one of those strategies more than others. So some people will really rely on flight. Some people will go quickly to fight. Some people will freeze very quickly. Those are different styles of handling stress. And in fact, they overlap quite a bit with what's called attachment styles. So for those of you who like that language of attachment is about how you manage anxiety. It's about how you learned how to manage anxiety. It's about how a sense of whether help is on hand or not got built into your body as a child. Now, some of you who are here tonight may never have heard that language of attachment. Those who follow what I do, you'll be really familiar with that because I talk a lot about attachment. But there are people joining us tonight who, this may be your very first time that you've ever heard about that. So let me just give you some teeny basic insights about the science of attachment. It's been around since the 1940s. The scientists and the psychoanalysts and the psychiatrists who first studied attachment got worried about the stress that was being caused by evacuating children during World War II. And they were afraid that the government strategy of evacuation wasn't as helpful to all the children as they hoped, because they began to realize that the split from relationships, from safe relationships, especially for the youngest children, was having a damaging impact. And I tell that story because I think it helps us to really get it. We can imagine that if you're very young and you're split from your parents, it would be scary. What they didn't realize then, in the 1940s, was that the impact of that fear could have a lifelong impact. That it could change your biology, that it could change the core anxiety levels, that it could change how your heart beats and how fast you breathe and how quickly you produce the hormone cortisol, which is the Sabre Tooth Tiger hormone. Now we know that stuff. That overlaps with the study of adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, which some of you will have heard about, and for some of you that may be new. That overlaps with the study of trauma. I guess what I'm really trying to say is that whatever language you use, attachment, stress, trauma, ACEs, self-regulation, co-regulation, which are words I haven't even used yet tonight, all of those are talking about the same core territory. They all come together. And so lots of people are now talking about trauma and ACEs. It's an extension of what they were studying in the 1940s. We have information now that they didn't have then. And in a really unfortunate way, I think coronavirus is going to help us to think about that in even more depth. Or maybe it won't. Here's an interesting question. The government is trying to keep us safe from an external threat. And although we have heard a little bit about mental health strategies, maybe we haven't thought enough about that yet. Maybe the government hasn't said enough about that to people, which is one of the reasons that I have stepped in and other people have stepped in, because we're trying to think through the consequences of trying to keep ourselves physically safe from an external threat that could kill us. But in trying to cope with the external threat, it increases the internal threat. So here's one of the key things that I will want you to take away from tonight. You are responsible for knowing what helps you to feel safe. You are responsible for figuring out how your teddy bear system operates. No one else can figure that out for you. They can help, but they can't do it for you. You are responsible for knowing that. And the reason you're responsible for knowing that is because you can't calm down effectively if you don't know how you operate, and you can't help other people like your children. So knowing what comforts you and how to get back to there when you get into your Sabre Tooth Tiger system is the key mental health issue that I think we need to think about as a society at the moment. Okay, so what have I said there? That I've talked a bit more about how your body is seeking a place of safety. I've talked about fight or flight. I've talked about the way in which your biology is shaped in your very early years by how much stress and worry you have to cope with in the world of your family and how much help is available. So sometimes in a family, children who get stressed have help. When they cry a lot, someone comes and picks them up and cuddles them. But sometimes children grow up in families where people don't realize that crying is a request for help. They don't realize that babies are saying, I'm feeling stressed with that crying. Parents are tired, parents are distracted, parents feel overwhelmed by the demands of their children. So they're less able to meet those children's needs. Now here's one of the risks that I take when I say that. I'm simply trying to find words that help us to understand how infants develop and how important relationships are in that, and how you can feel scared and you might have to learn to cope with that on your own. And although you can survive with that, you can't thrive with that. The risk I take is that it triggers guilt and worry for lots of parents. So there's a really interesting tightrope that we walk in trying to understand this. How do you help people to feel curious? Curious about just how our bodies work. Because we're all drawing on our stress system all day, every day, and lots of people don't know how it works. It makes life harder to do that. But then when we try to talk about it, we try to explain it to people, and I spend lots of time now talking to people about exactly these topics. It triggers this sense of guilt and worry and even shame that you could have had that much impact on the development of your children. I don't want anyone to feel guilty or ashamed. And I want us to take really seriously how much children need the help of adults in their world to help them to manage their stress system. Because baby humans are born with immature stress systems. Their stress systems develop after birth, and they develop in the context of the world they find and the help that they find there. That's attachment. People didn't always think of attachment as the way that our stress systems get shaped. But that's where the contemporary understanding of attachment has taken us, is that relationships and the attachment system grows a self-regulatory system. The ability to regulate your own emotions. The ability to get back to your teddy bear system after you've been tripped into your Sabre Tooth Tiger system. And because human beings come into the world with brains that are really highly attuned to other people, children take their cue from us. Children are really good at picking up on when the adults around them are scared, are stressed, that there's unpredictable, uncertain things going on, that there are mixed messages, they pick up on that. So it's really important for their sake and our sake for us to be able to know what we're feeling, to be able to talk about it, and to not be scared by it, and to not feel guilty, and to not feel ashamed, and to know that we are doing the best we can in the moment, and to know that that will help. Okay, I can think of lots of other things to tell you, but I'm also keeping my eye on the time, and I want to tell you how to help before we go over to questions. So, if I breathe out again, to signal that we've reached another place in the structure. Can you just see how my shoulders have like gone down? Can you see how I look more relaxed? That's simply by breathing out. And it's simply by giving myself a little tiny bit of space to think, rather than race ahead of myself and do more. And I'm just trying to call attention to that, so that it helps all of you to know how easy it can be to do that throughout your days, because they're going to be pretty cramped, and you're going to have lots of Sabre Tooth Tiger moments, and remembering the power of breath will help. So that gets us to this last third section, how to help. Okay, I've got a list of 10 things here. Let's see how many of them I get through in the 10 minutes I've got left. And remember that all of these are based around trying to give yourself a sense of safety. That's what your body is needing when it gets tense, when it gets into the Sabre Tooth Tiger system. It's a sense of safety that will get you back into your teddy bear system. And what you are responsible for is knowing how to get your body back there. And I'm not saying that you know at the moment. Tons of people don't know how to get back into their teddy bear system. What I'm saying is you need to learn. And you have permission to learn. And it's okay not to know. What's not okay is to not be curious. Okay, so here are some ideas about what you can do to help you to get back into your teddy bear system. 1, you can breathe out. When you breathe slowly, you trick your body into believing it's safe. Even if your brain isn't so sure, you can trick your brain into saying it's safe because we are breathing slowly. Because when you're running away from a saber-toothed tiger, you need to breathe fast. Your lungs need to pump. When they slow down, the danger must have passed. So you can trick your brain into calming down simply by breathing more slowly. And if you need help with that, there are tons of meditations and mindfulness moments recorded on YouTube all over the place these days. I put one out this morning on Twitter when I was having trouble sleeping, and I just popped it up for anybody else who was having trouble sleeping, and it will have helped people to breathe and go back to sleep in the middle of the night. So the first thing is breathe. Okay, here's another thing you can do. You can move back into the present. Anxiety is about the future. It's about what will happen. Is there a saber-toothed tiger just over that rim? What if a saber-toothed tiger comes into my village? What if a saber-toothed tiger comes into this house? It's worrying about the future. But right in this moment, you are not being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. Right in this moment, there is no saber-toothed tiger growling at the door. If you can move back into this moment, into the very present, you help your body to relax. It's really easy for minds to race ahead. I know that. So the more you can learn to talk to your mind, to talk to your brain, to say, I know that you are worried. I can hear that you are thinking about that saber-toothed tiger. But look, right now, there's no saber-toothed tiger at the door. Let's breathe out, brain. That's the third thing you can do. You can just talk. I do that all the time. I say to my brain, I know you are trying to keep me safe. I understand your intention is to keep me safe, but actually I am safe. I just try to treat my brain as almost a different person, and I talk to it, and I tell it I'm safe. And sometimes my brain goes, are you sure? Are you sure? But there might be. Are you sure? You haven't checked the door. There might be a saber tooth tiger. I know you're anxious. I'm telling you we're safe. In fact, I'm going to get a meditation piece at the moment to help convince you, to help you to feel safe, that we can go back to sleep. Whatever you can do to talk to your brain, to get it to come back to the now, because in the now, you are safe. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your bottom on the chair. Feel yourself breathe. Come back into the present. The book that taught me how to do that was Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. I say that so that if you haven't read it, it might be of use to you. In fact, we'll send out some notes by email at the end of this about some resources that you can draw on, ones that I have found helpful. And what Eckhart Tolle's book taught me was that the way that I could know when I had moved out of the now was with negative emotions. So anger, sadness, discomfort, irritation. That's the signal that helps you to know that you have moved out of the present. And I got really interested and curious about that. And I used that as a little tool to help me to know that I've moved out of the present whenever I move into what we call negative emotions. I'm not sure I like the word negative, but it's a good way of describing what we mean in, what I mean in today's world. So negative emotions are a sign that you've moved out of the now. And if I pay attention to those, I go, oh, right, okay, I have moved out of the present. What can I do to move myself back into the present? Oh, yeah, I can breathe. Okay, so that's 3 things. Here's another thing you can do. You can simply name what you're feeling. Just name it. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling trapped. I am feeling fed up. I'm feeling bored. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling happy. Excited and happy and the what we think of as positive emotions they don't seem so much of a trouble for us. It's the negative ones that are really hard. Naming emotions helps them to stop being so internal. That's the fabulous thing about having words for what you're feeling. When you can name a feeling, it becomes external to you. It gives you something slightly outside of yourself to consider, to play with, to work with. If you don't have a name for what you're feeling, then it's simply inside you. You can drown in all those biological feelings that underpin, that go with emotions. So having a word helps to make it external. And for young children who are just learning to talk, that's part of their struggle. They don't have words that help them to represent and take an emotion out of their body. They're dependent on us to help them. So if you have a toddler who's starting to use language, if you just start to name their emotions for them, you look like you're bored, honey. Oh, you look really frustrated. Oh, are you feeling sad? It helps to have children to have a name to go with what they're feeling inside. And there are lots of early years settings around the country who focus on helping toddlers to gain words for their feelings. And right now, they'll need to be using a lot of those words because the children who are in early year settings at the moment will be feeling all of the heightened adult emotions. And so if you are joining me tonight and you work in an early year setting, I really encourage you to use language, that phrase of name it to tame it. And of course, if you're in a family, I encourage you to do the same thing, simply naming it and talking about what you're feeling helps to calm those feelings where they're uncomfortable. Okay, here's a fifth thing. You can use transitional objects. That's a fancy name for teddy bears. Transitional objects are the things that help you to feel safe. So this morning when I got up and I could see that lots of people had had a tough night on my Twitter feed, I did a little thread about what I was doing to cope in the morning. And one of the things I said was that I had clothed myself in clothing that all carried memories that signified for me people I love. So I literally clothed myself in love. That will have helped me to feel safe, to feel included, to feel connected to the people who are most important in my world. And in fact, when I've come along tonight, this little pearls, these were my grandmother's. My grandmother lived through World War II. And I keep her in mind because she was stressed as well. And she found ways to help. And so I feel connected to her. And so this simple necklace becomes a transitional object to help me feel safe. Children may really need to carry around their teddy bears at the moment. They may be attached to, I don't know, an action man or to their dummy or the things that help them feel safe. Those are transitional objects, and adults need them too. Okay, what else have I got on my list? Remember to make up. The fancy name for that is the rupture repair cycle. If we want to, we could come back and talk about that more. But the key thing to know is that it's okay if you have a bust up. It's okay if you have a fight in your household. That's going to be happening a lot. But get yourself back to making up. Get yourself back to repair. The problem for relationships is not that things get tense. The problem is not that you have fights. The problem is not that there are ruptures. The problem is when you cannot get yourself back to a place of repair. And one of the things that we need to worry about at the moment is that there will be lots of families who can't do that. I'm going to say another hard thing. Reports of domestic violence have gone back up. Reports of child abuse are going back up. Where we're getting those reports. Charities are trying to highlight that, and we don't know always what to do to help. But it's worth commenting on it right here so that we can think about whatever you are able to do in your household to manage the stress and the levels of anxiety. There are families who are not able to do that. So bring yourself back to repair whenever there are tense moments. Another thing you can do is you can practice gratitude. Gratitude helps you to know, I think of gratitude as helping you to know what does feel safe in your world. So this morning when I got up, I toasted the sun. The sun had decided to come back up this morning. That was predictable. Everything has not changed. The sun still comes up. And so focusing my attention on that gave me a little tiny moment of safety, a little tiny place that was predictable and therefore felt controlled. Knowing that some of the rest of it was not going to be predictable, if I was stocking up on the places that were predictable, I was creating a kind of bank of relaxation and safety that I could draw on later on if things got tense. And when I did that toasting of the sun, I laughed. Because this is the mug that I realized I was toasting the sun with. And this mug is also a transitional object. This mug came from somebody I loved, and it was a joke. You might be able to see that it says, "It is what it is." The people I love get fed up of hearing me say that. It is what it is. For me, it's a way of getting back to the present. It's a way of accepting. It is what it is. Right now, we're in lockdown. It is what it is. Right now, I feel frustrated or I feel trapped. It's a way of accepting what is in the present moment, even if I wish that was not the present moment. It is what it is. And I laughed because I was toasting the sun with a mug given to me by somebody I love. And she'd meant it to tease me. So I'm going to end, however many I've got through of my tips about how to manage anxiety, I'm going to end with that one. Laugh as much as you can. This mug made me laugh this morning. I put on several comic clips today because it would make me laugh. Laughter puts you back into your teddy bear system. It helps you to relax. Because if you're running away from a saber tooth tiger, you're not laughing. Your body cannot relax. It's not time to laugh. The time to laugh is after the saber tooth tigers are gone. And in fact, there are some scientists who think that that's one of the places that human laughter comes from. It's the shared relief that the danger is past. So, if you can find ways to laugh in your life, I don't know, get your children, make a joke moment during the day. Make that part of the ritual of your day. That you know that it's going to be joke time at 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock or just before bed. So it's part of what they're trying to do during the day. They're trying to find the funniest joke that they can to make you laugh the hardest. I now think of it this way. Sabre tooth tigers are scared by the sound of giggling. I can make them go away in my body simply by making contact with people who can help me to laugh. So that's however many tips of how to help manage your own anxiety and how to help others manage theirs. So I'm going to wind up now so that we can have just about 10 minutes of Q&A. I'm just going to wind up with these key thoughts. 5 of them. You are the only one who can know how to create safety for you. If you don't know how to do that right now, that's okay. It's a good opportunity to start learning. Secondly, you have a responsibility to do that learning. If you want to have a life where you thrive, where you want to be healthy, and if we're going to survive the time that we're living in at the moment, you have a responsibility to know how you calm down. Thirdly, you also have a responsibility to be curious about how other people are handling their anxiety. They may not be doing it in the way that you do it. Their tension may be inconvenient for you. But if you're going to survive this time in households with people you love, it will help you if you get curious about what they're feeling. And if you know more about that, then you are able to help. 4, practice safety whenever you can. Top up in little tiny moments wherever you can. You create a bank that you can draw on for the times when it's going to get tough. And 5, you're doing the best you can. As long as you just keep doing the best you can and you remain committed to being curious and to being kind to yourself for doing the best you can, we will get through this. And I think we will have a changed world on the other side. If it turns out that it's kinder and we're more aware of just how fragile our society is, and we're more aware of the power of connection, then something really worthwhile will have come out of this saber-toothed tiger time. Thank you.